Okay. Resolution appointing Maria Kent for the Borough Council unexpired term of Frank Giaconetta as set forth herein. Be resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes, Passaic, State of New Jersey, that Maria Kent is hereby appointed to fill the unexpired term of Frank Giaconetta as councilwoman on the Borough Council, Borough of Pompton Lakes until December 31st, 2020, pursuant to state statute. Resolved that the remainder of the unexpired term until December 31st, 2020 shall be filled by this candidate for said position in the next general election. And I will sign that right now.
Well, vote?
Yes, I'm going to have a vote on that. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Councilwoman Riker? Can I have a second?
Second.
Council President Venin? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, now, if you'd like to step up with your family.
How do you know it's me?
Sure.
It actually stopped again.
Is it working?
It's
No,
working.
it stopped. It just,
Stopped again?
yeah. It's my life.
Turn around, Bruce. Come over here, face that way. Sure.
It's back.
Back? Good, so I'm going to have to read the whole speech again. Okay.
Again?
I state your name.
I, Maria Kent,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
to the governments established
to the governments established
in the United States,
in the United States,
in this state,
in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of
perform all the duties of
council
council
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Back
thank
in.
you.
I'd love to
Thank
shake
you.
your hand, but
No,
I
I
can't.
Socially.
Yeah, let me get this signed and then I'll do that for you. All right.
Do it with that. You gotta do it with a mask, right?
We can take it down.
Unless we separate out.
I think you're allowed to stand next to your wife.
Perfect.
Okay, would you take a seat up at the table?
All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Maria, you gotta go in. Maria, you gotta go in.
Yeah.
Paperwork?
Go this way, you gotta go over there. So we are working now, Liz,
Yeah,
and it's recorded for Channel 77 and everything?
yeah, right now it is,
So
yeah.
I'm going to repeat everything I said.
Thank you.
Now, see right on the end there.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had some difficulties with our Channel 77 and our recording device, so the beginning of the meeting was missed. So for the people at home, I am going to repeat, because it was important, what I said in the beginning of the meeting. Coronavirus update, we've had 0 new cases in the last 3 weeks. That means our residents here in town are doing the right thing. Please continue to do social distancing and wearing masks at all time. I think as a town we've been doing a good job in following the rules here. I can tell you our police department has had very few calls about breaking up groups of kids and things of such. So let's keep up the good work. 3 weeks is a long time to not have a new case. The county does have some tick-up cases in other parts of the county, and we all know that our numbers right now in Jersey are extremely low, and we want to keep it that way so we can get our businesses back open. You know, our businesses downtown have been struggling, but I will tell you this, our businesses have been struggling, but we had 3 new businesses open in the last 2 weeks downtown. I don't know how many towns can say that in this environment right now. So let's keep supporting our businesses. They've always supported us. We want to keep it that way so we can get our businesses back open. You know, our businesses downtown have been struggling, but we had 3 new businesses open in the last 2 weeks downtown. I don't know how many towns can say that in this environment right now. So let's keep supporting our businesses. They've always supported us. Get to them as best you can if you're comfortable going there, and let's, remember what they have to do to keep our downtown moving forward. Of course, our power outage that we just had, it was very severe, knocked out our whole town. After talking to Jersey Central, we were one of the few towns that got hit the hardest, and they say that because our whole town got knocked out at once. Most of the town was knocked out not because of trees down, even though there were some bigger trees that came down. It was because of the substations in town. There's 3 substations, one in Wanacue, one in Pompton Lakes, and one in Riverdale. The one in Wanacue especially gave a lot of trouble. They had problems getting it back online. One in Riverdale also gave us a lot of trouble, and then the one in Pompton they were able to get up right away. Of course, my biggest problem with the whole situation was getting teams of workers here. Now look, I understand there was 1.4 million people out of power at one time. My personal opinion is one of the problems I saw with the whole program is they brought in all these teams from out of state, and these teams were great to come and help us. They would come to a job and they would sit for 3, 4, 5 hours doing nothing, waiting for a line supervisor from Jersey Central to come forward and say the line is dead. So when I had a meeting with the president of Jersey Central, one of my conversations, I said, why aren't you guys sending a line person with every team that goes out so that you can get the job done? These workers are just waiting because they have nothing to do. And he said, that's something we've talked about, we should be doing. He gave us the same whole story. I am going to follow up and find out about that. By Wednesday, after I made a big stink on Tuesday about not having any teams in town, we did have 8 teams of trucks here, of 8 people per team, working on the town. They got the majority of the town back up by Wednesday. Of course, there were some spots that were going to be out. Like I've said from day one, that would be out till they got to the homes, and unfortunately there were about 50 homes at the end that didn't get turned on till Friday night. But all in all, we did pretty well. I know in Wanacue there's still some homes out. There's a lot of towns that still have some issues right now. So, the biggest thing I can say from the resident side is don't hesitate to call the power company when the power goes out. Call more than once. Call numerous times to find out where they are, what's the status of repairs. You got to keep bugging them. It's the same thing I did, and I have a representative I dealt with on a daily basis. Sometimes 2 or 3 times I would speak to him on the phone, and he was very helpful. I will tell you, the gentleman I was dealing with was very helpful. It was the teams themselves that were causing some problems. So, I think as we move forward from this, there will be a lot of talk on how things could be better with Jersey Central. One of the other concerns I have is Jersey Central, with the deal they've worked out with the governor years ago, they're not responsible for any lost medication or food that they lose over power outages. Now, other utilities, they are responsible. Orange and Rockland, they do pay for your lost food and medication. The deal that was worked out with the governor was not. That's something that has to change, because if there's money on the line, I think they move a little quicker if they know they have to put money out. So that's another thing I'll be pushing for. Of course, I have to thank our police, our DPW, our OEM, our town employees. They were on top of the storm right from the very beginning. I was with numerous times in the car with many of them. They did not rest till it was done. Our DPW did an excellent job of picking up all the debris as it came down. I had people on overtime working till 11 o'clock at night, driving around picking up branches and things. So hats off to all of them. And because of their help, we did get things moving forward. And lastly, there's been a lot of concern and complaints about Cablevision. Cablevision, unfortunately, is a monopoly here in town. There's no other choices besides Cablevision for internet at this point, unless you go to satellite. I did speak finally with a representative from Cablevision, which took me a very long time to get through. I told them we were not happy with the results here in town, and I had a lot of residents concerned that they can't work from home, which is what they've been told to do because they have no internet service, and they have to do a better job of customer service with residents. There'll be more to follow on those conversations, because I myself am not happy with Cablevision. Okay, I welcome our new councilwoman. Congratulations. You jumping right into the fire right now. Okay, that is my presentations and updates. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Councilman DeWine.
Second.
Councilwoman Palladori. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Anyone from the public would like to address? Please step up.
Hi, I'm Dina Curtis. I'm at 111 Ramapo Avenue. And going forward, I'd like to not leave my address since I had a rock thrown through my window.
You have to, by law, leave
If
your
we can just say we're a Pompton Lakes
First of all, let's
resident.
not bang on the counter. You have to leave your address. That's the law.
Well, you can amend it, I'm sure, for safety reasons.
Right, but that's the law.
Okay. Maria Kent, Councilwoman. Could you answer me, what was your role with the EPA and NJDEP prior to this, in the past?
First of all, Maria, you don't have to answer. She did not work for the EPA. She was an employee of the DEP, and she's retired now. So, and that's none of your concern of what she is or isn't.
Because I guess in one of your pages you listed as an EPA.
She is
So
not.
there was a little
she's-
confusion there.
She has never worked for the EPA.
Okay.
This is a public comment period, ma'am.
This is a public comment,
Okay.
and I have 5 minutes, and I'd rather not be
Okay, but it's not,
interrupted.
it's not an attack on someone, it's a question.
I'm not attacking her.
Do you have any questions?
I'm questioning her.
Okay.
That's
Well,
all.
First of all, the conversation,
That's my point.
the conversation's with me,
It's
not with anybody
comment
else.
Period, not a question period.
Oh, okay. So, as a concerned resident of Pompton Lakes, I think that the role of the council in the DuPont cleanup, and it is DuPont/Camore, so I'm just going to say DuPont, is that you're keeping the eye on NJDEP and EPA to hold them accountable to do a proper cleanup. So you really can't have compromised people on the council, and that's my opinion.
That is your
And we'll
opinion.
leave it at that.
That's right. What you said is correct. The public will vote.
And I can't believe you appointed somebody that has this past affiliation.
I have no issues with
Like,
Maria
it's so
Cantor
brazen.
It's not any issues at all, and you're one opinion of many, and I would tell you...
I'm more than one.
Okay, well, I don't see
They're
those
not
people.
here.
I don't see those people.
Well, we are in the middle
You
of a
can't speak. You
pandemic.
can't speak for other people.
I'm speaking for myself.
That's all I can speak for.
And
Okay,
you were
next-
speaking
next
for
thing?
them.
Next thing?
Next step.
Next step. What else you got?
What else do I have for you? Maybe we could pass a generator ordinance where they're turned off at night, except during a situation like that, unless, of course, there's a medical reason.
No,
Period.
that's not going to happen.
No, it won't.
People need to have, with small children, need to have electricity.
The children don't care, it's the
Okay, well,
parents.
that's your opinion
But,
again.
okay, that's my opinion. I'd
Yes,
like to
that's
not be
gonna happen.
interrupted.
Okay. Well, you got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So that should do it. So I think we should have an arts council in this town, because we're very focused on sports, and this is not to disparage sports in any way, just to say that doesn't fit all people and all children and adults.
Sure.
And that would be a great thing to look into. 2 is we should have a history museum. If the big can rent a space, I don't see why. Where's Terry Regler?
On the phone.
Okay. I think the town could probably afford to rent a space downtown instead of having all the history, and I know Eek's in the History Commission or the liaison.
Yes.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Sorry, my people see what they call me. Have that downtown. And there's lots of empty spaces right now, for whatever reason. So I think that would be like a great thing for our town and very positive. So I mentioned 2 positive things.
Yes, you should bring those to the Historical Committee, and we are trying to do that, but in these financial times, these are going to be very rough financial times for any town in the next 2 years. Spending money is going to be a premium at this point.
And I have a degree in history from Rutgers, and I would love to be
Sure.
on that commission.
The
I
meetings
know
are
you're
open.
appointed.
What are they, what day, Monday night?
Third Mondays.
Third Mondays of the week, they meet in Civic Center. If you're more than welcome to come.
Okay,
Okay, that's about your time, so thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up. Yeah, sure.
Helen Martins, 59 White Way. I'm here on behalf of the residents of the Plume. I know the storms were bad and a lot of people were out, but there's a lot of people in the Plume area that their mitigation systems were turned off because of no power. And we presented this problem years ago, and we wanted DuPont to do something with a generator, whether it be a truck or whatever, a temporary, however, generator, so that it's bad enough people in the Plume have to deal with the power outage and health reasons and everything else, to have the stress of those systems turned off. I know for a fact I had cancer. My husband just finished going through cancer. And just an added bit of stress to that we don't need. And I know there's a lot of people that still aren't here tonight on behalf of this. I know that they've went through a lot with this and they were trying to help with that. But I just want to go on record saying that we need somebody to put some pressure on for this reason. Now, we lost it during Sandy, we lost it here, and they're talking about a lot more storms coming. And I know the EPA, we were in contact with them, we were in contact with the DEP, the health. I made many phone calls, so did quite a few. And their response is, it isn't a temporary thing, it's for a long term. But it's still the fact we're breathing those fumes in.
So I was in contact with the EPA. They called me.
I know, Perry wrote me.
Right, Perry, I got the same letter Perry sent you. And fortunately or unfortunately, there was only 2 complaints about it, 2 residents. And rightly so. I mean, your complaint is logistic to put in if you want to. It was addressed years ago. In the short term, this is what I am told. This is not my decision. This is what I'm told by the EPA and DEP, that in short term, there's no real issue with the buildup of
I get
vapor.
that, but it's the stress of the fact.
I get it.
And we don't need any more added stress on top of it.
If the EPA was to tell Comores that they have to do something with this, I would back that. I would not fight that. I think that you'd have to put the pressure on the EPA. And I'll tell you, I did reach out to the Congresswoman Cheryl's office, and I did mention, I know some people
Well, we
did.
called her.
Yes,
Yeah,
and she did call me about it.
We all called.
And I told her the same thing. I said, look, I am not going to fight it if they get generators there. That's okay with me, but that's a fight that EPA has to make, and you guys have to push the EPA, unfortunately.
And another thing, the fact of Mrs. Kent, I feel that is too a conflict of interest, and she did work for them.
Okay, so your right as a voter is to not vote for her, and that's
I
how
get
it
that,
would be
but
changed.
you said nobody else had that. I just wanted to
Yeah,
point
okay.
out that we feel that there could be a conflict of interest there.
Okay.
And the third thing is, with the medicine, like you were saying, with no refrigeration, shouldn't there be something that the town could do to set up
We
for
can't by
if
legal-
somebody, like my husband, he has
Yes.
insulin and that, and I spoke to Liz about that the other day. I had a scramble running around trying to find a place that I could store the extra insulin
I agree
that we
with you. I
have
do
and
agree
his
with that.
medications and that. And it's, like I said, it was stressful for everybody, but when you have medical issues and stuff, it's more stressful on you.
And I looked into it, legal reasons, we can't keep people's medications, we can't hold it. Food we could, but the suggestion I was told was that you should remind your neighbors or people in the community who are offering help to help these people who have generators, who can help them with the medication. Because I agree with you. And in my philosophy is, the power company should be paying for the cost of any lost medication. That
Everybody
medication is not
lost
cheap.
everything.
It's expensive.
And it was a really hit to everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening, everybody. Al Evangelista, Emergency Management Coordinator. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone in the borough, police, fire, EMS, DPW, and on, administrator, clerk, everybody that had a hand in doing something to get us through this storm. This was a devastating storm, as we all know. It was only about 5 miles away from a Category 1 hurricane. So when people say it was not a severe tropical storm, it was. We had wind gusts of 70 miles an hour. 75 miles an hour is a Category 1 hurricane. This is what perplexes me as a coordinator. We educate our community. We have annual seminars. We hand out information at Pompton Day. We hand out information at the Stroll. National Night Out. It's on the Facebook site for OEM. It's on the borough website. And the lack of people that did not, or let me say, the lack of people that failed to prepare for this storm that was for days, reported to be coming up the coast with the possibility of hitting the state of New Jersey. And with all due respect to everyone that had food and insulin, get a cooler. Put ice in the cooler.
Please, no, we're talking from the audience.
Start to prepare for the eventuality. When I saw Facebook, and I only read it to try to get a feel for what was going on, the amount of people that hadn't gassed their cars were looking for gas stations the night of the storm. The night of the storm, we have one gas station in this town that has a generator. And the line was a mile long, and the police had to go down there and control traffic. People everywhere, you've got to be more self-aware and prepare for yourself and your family. It's not up to our public employees, it's not up to our volunteers to go around and try to make things better after the damage is done. And I will continue to say that forever. Captain Begg, the deputy coordinator, he knows the drill. We've been doing this a long time. There were people that had generators they hadn't even started until the power went out. That's not the time to try your generator when the power goes out. Those generators should be run at the beginning of hurricane season every year. You put a stabilizer in the fuel, because we all know the fuel today damages carburetors and engine components. And they sell all this stuff in every hardware store and big box store that you can imagine. So, we will continue to educate the public. All the people complaining about charging their cell phones were on Facebook using the energy in their cell phones to post on Facebook. And you know, we laugh, but I'm serious. Keep it for emergencies only. I feel for the people that needed laptops for work, I get that. But as I told one gentleman that wanted a cooling center and a charging station, I said, sit in your car in your driveway with the engine running, turn on the air conditioner, and plug in your phone or laptop. And you'll be killing two birds with one stone. Not the best way to do it, I get it, you know, exhaust emissions and all that stuff. But this was a declared emergency. This was a disaster, and a big one.
And let me just add to what you're saying, Al, which I agree 100% with everything you said. We're a flood community. We're prepared for flooding. Hopefully, you've got to prepare for everything.
Exactly.
One of the reasons we didn't open our normal cooling stations was because of the COVID situation, and we don't have large enough areas to spread out the right way to do that. I mean, in normal situations, we would probably open up some buildings. You know, we don't have a generator on the Civic Center in the back, so we can't use that. But we're not going to jeopardize the good work that's been done by all the residents here with the COVID because someone can't charge their cell phone. I mean, it's uncomfortable and it's bad, and I understand what you're saying, but we're not going to take the chance with the COVID right now to have an example of something going bad. That's the only reason we didn't open a station, because we were especially if the seniors were the ones who were going to use this station because they didn't have air conditioning or for whatever reason. We can't put them in jeopardy. Most of the deaths we had in town were seniors. We can't go putting the seniors in one building and expect nothing to happen from that. So we were trying to be cautious and protect all our residents, especially our seniors. And I know Al feels the same way.
Yes, and Mayor, if I may just add one thing and then I'll sit down. We have a very extensive plan. Every municipality in the state of New Jersey has a very extensive emergency management plan to address all hazards, not just flooding, as the mayor said, but all hazards. When things go awry, those plans don't always work. For example, we had power out in the whole town. The only buildings generated were emergency service buildings, and we can't have the public going there for a number of reasons. One, most importantly this year, was the COVID situation. We're not going to damage all that good work we did for March in keeping our numbers low with COVID, and then in 1 or 2 days just have a situation where we're going to exacerbate that situation. So it's all about neighbors helping neighbors, being prepared for you and your family. And I want to stress that, and we'll continue to stress that everywhere we go, everything we do. Unfortunately, this year we didn't have several events, but anybody wants any booklets, I got booklets. I'll leave them with Liz in the Borough Hall. And it's a little tiny booklet that addresses every single situation as far as emergencies go that you can imagine. And it gives you some great tips in there. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Anyone else from the public like to address?
May I just say one more
Nope,
thing?
only one time. Okay,
There's not many people talking.
doesn't matter, it can't do it. Okay, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Motion, Terry.
Council
Second.
President Vennon first, Terry Riker second. Councilwoman Riker, sorry, second. Okay, approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes of July 15th, 2020. Can I have a motion? Councilman Begg?
Second.
Council President Bennett? All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Present.
Were you not at that meeting?
I was not at that
Okay,
meeting.
and you're not voting, Maria, on this? No. All right, bills and claims as listed below. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Riker.
Councilman Devine, Councilwoman Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Consent agenda, does anybody need anything removed? Okay, Liz, whenever you're ready. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hang on one second. Can we remove Resolution 20-173?
Okay, everything but 123, yep.
Yes.
Whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now therefore be it resolved, the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 20-166 through 20-180. We're going to be removing 20-173.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Begg?
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, Resolution 2173.
A resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes determining an area in need of redevelopment in accordance with NJSA 40A12A1, Block 6300, Lot 1.
Okay, Councilman Devine, your concern?
Well, one quick question and then maybe a statement depending on that. What is 201 Wanacue?
When you say 201
Wanacue Avenue apparently is the address for this one block and lot.
201, I think, is the A&P section that we're...
It's the A&P site?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. That's, yeah, again, we've had these discussions before that going beyond the block and lot, beyond the address, giving some description of what this property is, I think would be very helpful.
All right, so then we'd have to move that over to the boards to make them put that in the resolution.
I mean, we can do it in our resolutions too, but that's I think Councilwoman Riker has brought it up in the past. I think it's just something we have to be mindful of going forward, continuing to go forward.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, Resolution 2173, can I have a motion?
Motion, Riker.
Councilman Begg, Councilwoman Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay. Ordinance is first reading.
This ordinance will be presented for second reading and final adoption on September 9th. An ordinance 2019, an ordinance amending redevelopment plan for downtown Pompton Lakes, amending ordinance number 9-01 by adding block 6300 lot 201 Wanacue Ave to downtown Pompton Lakes redevelopment area.
Okay, motion to approve ordinance 2019 for introduction.
So moved.
Council President Bennett, second.
Second, Riker.
Councilwoman Riker. This is just putting the supermarket into the redevelopment zone so they can start working.
Hang on a second. 201 Wanacue Avenue is not the A&P site.
Okay, what is that then?
It is the Smith Building.
Yeah, I was going to say...
It's on the corner of Colfax Avenue, and this is what I was talking about.
Okay, so then...
We're adopting a resolution, we don't even know what we're adopting.
Okay, so the Smith Building then is because when the redevelopment plan was put in place initially, that building was left out for some reason of redevelopment. It was overlooked. So the rest of that area around it is in the redevelopment zone, but that building was not.
Okay, so that was, okay, understood.
So that is the Smith Building. You're correct then. That is the Smith Building on the corner of Colfax and Wanacue. And it was an oversight back 12 years ago when we did the redevelopment plan. So there was a...
Actually, that whole stretch.
Yes, that whole piece, correct. Okay, did I have motions? I think I did, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do the roll call now.
Okay.
Councilman July.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman, are you voting? No. Okay.
No, not today.
Then I'm not going to call.
No.
Okay. All right, ordinance for second reading and final adoption. Ordinance 20-16, an ordinance amending Chapter 7 of the Municipal Code, Borough of Pompton Lakes, and revising certain parking restrictions.
Okay, motion to open the public meeting for comments on ordinance 20-16.
So moved.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Second.
Council President Bennett, all in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone like to address just this resolution? Ordinance, I'm sorry. Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 20-16.
So moved.
Motion Riker.
Council President Bennett, Councilwoman Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 20-16 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Begg,
Second.
Councilwoman Palladori, roll call, please.
Councilman Yuan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Okay.
20-17, an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Section 725, multi-way stop intersections of the municipal code of the Borough of Pompton Lakes to add the intersections of Hemlock Road and Ridge Drive.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 20-17.
So moved.
Councilman Devine.
Second.
Council President Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public would like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 20-17?
So moved.
Councilman
Motion
Devine.
Riker.
Councilwoman Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2017 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Devine.
Second.
Councilman Begg, roll call, please.
Councilman Yuan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Ordinance 20-18, an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the municipal code of the Borough of Pompton Lakes and establishing hours for park and recreation areas and voting on waters within the borough.
Okay, a little discussion. Councilman Devine, just give us those hours again. Do you remember the hours?
So this is, it is, I believe it's 1 hour after,
1 hour before
No,
sunrise.
before sunrise.
1 hour before sunrise and 1 hour after
After sunset,
And we're doing it for both the lakes and the parks, because they had deferring times, and because the parks and our lakes are sort of ubiquitous,
Yes.
sort of had an uneven enforcement. So we're changing the opening and closing times to basically both of those.
Good.
Is that written correctly in?
I think it's written backwards, but it means the same thing.
Well, no, the part where it starts, use of recreational facilities and fields will be prohibited after dusk and through and until 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. is later than 1 hour before sunrise. I thought that was what the conflict was originally.
If that's what it reads, I didn't pull it out and read it just now, but if it's reading that, that's the old ordinance reading that, because it would be the hour before.
It should be across the board, an hour before, an hour after.
Right.
It is. This is,
That's probably
the old?
That's the old ordinance then.
No, it says borough parks and public lands. Okay, so the opening was, no. That's specifically the facilities in the fields. The borough parks and public lands shall be open daily from 1 hour before sunrise and shall be closed 1 hour after sunset. So you can enter the parks during those time periods. However, using the facilities in the fields
When you say
have
the
a different
field,
requirement.
You're talking about our ball fields?
sport fields.
Sports
Yes.
fields.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Were we
Okay.
not making everything the same across the board? Is there a reason why some of it's being separated?
Because it would be too early for practices with teams an hour before sunrise.
The idea being only to give access to the lakes, not to open the sports fields when there's no light.
So if you have people that want to run, they can't use the tracks in the morning until 8
Track is not
a.m.?
ours. Track is not ours. Track is the high
Board of
school.
Education.
Okay.
This is for like Willow Field, for example. If a soccer team wanted to practice at 6:30, they could if we let them do it that way, and then neighbors would complain they're making a lot of noise down here at 6:30 in the morning. So it's to keep them within working hours for practicing. Okay, any questions? Any more questions, discussion?
This is right.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 20-18?
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Motion.
Council President Council President Bennett? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this motion? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 20-18.
So moved.
Councilman
Motion
Devine?
Riker.
Councilwoman Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2018 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilwoman Palladori, roll call, please.
Councilman Delogne,
Yes.
Councilwoman Palladori,
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, under my report, I just would like to remind all our residents, we did lose 8 residents here in Pompton Lakes because of the virus, and let's all keep them in our memory. You know, we did even lose a 24-year-old EMT worker who lived in Pompton Lakes but was working at the time back in March in Englewood. So, you know, let's all keep them in our prayers, and let's remember this virus is serious. We, you know, unfortunately lost 8 residents, and we hope to not lose any more. I'd like to thank our administrator and all our office staff. It's been trying times the last 2 months and getting everything the way we need to get it done. You know, even the way this room is set up and all the work to get what's needed here. So I thank for everybody for the time and effort in putting it in. As anybody who's going back to work knows, it's a nervous feeling going back to work no matter where you work. If you work in a town, you work in an office, wherever you go. So let's just keep that in mind when you're here with in our borough hall. If you come to our borough hall and you forget your mask, which could happen, and someone tells you to put on a mask, there's no argument about it. You need to go put on a mask or you need to leave. Okay, and we just have to remind people of that in a nice way. We're not screaming at people. Some people do forget that they don't have a mask on, but they cannot enter the building without a mask on. August 29th, I think it's a Wednesday, we'll have COVID testing here at the high school put on by the county. Any resident is welcome to go to the high school. You do not need a prescription. You do not need to have symptoms. You can just show up and get tested. I recommend anybody who would like to who has the time to go get tested. It's not hurting you in any way. It's a
It's the 26th.
26th, is it? I thought it was 29th.
Wednesday, 26th.
Oh, Wednesday the 26th, I'm sorry. I think it's a saliva test, is that correct?
Yeah, from 9 to 3, yep.
Okay, so it's a saliva test, it isn't the nose swab. So again, the county's been doing these every couple weeks in different towns. We've been lucky enough to have them here once already. I recommend any residents that want to, please go take advantage of that. Also, on August 20th, that's where I got confused. On August 29th, the Friends of the Library will be doing a drive-up movie theater. There will be a charge. They'll be playing a movie in the parking lot. There's limited space for cars. If you're interested in that, please go to the library website for more information. We will be doing fireworks. Unfortunately, Pompton Day this year has been canceled, but we will be doing fireworks on Sunday, February 6th. September 6th at Hirschfield Park. That's the big change. It's at Hirschfield Park this year. And the reason it's at Hirschfield Park is, depending on the numbers that the governor has puts in place on how many people can be present, right now it's 500, it's a limited area that our police department can oversee on how many people are coming in and out. And unfortunately, if it is still at 500 by that point, we will close the field down at 500. That doesn't mean people can't enjoy the fireworks from their own homes. It's just at the field itself will only be 500. We're hoping that the governor does increase it to 1,000 by by September. So then we would allow 1,000 there. But we are going to hold firm to the number, whatever that number is. And those will start at dusk, or roughly when it gets dark, at Hirschfield Park. Please bring a chair. There will be no amusements. There will be no food. It will just be fireworks, and everybody goes. I would recommend trying to walk if you can there, because the parking will be limited. That's one of the reasons we have it there. We're going to limit the number of cars in and out. Of course, you have the bridge from the Ringwood Court side that you could come across and down the street. So that's something to keep in mind.
Also, may I remind that to bring ID. It's a Pompton Lakes residents only.
Correct.
You'll be checked at the checkpoints. If you have Pompton Lakes resident ID, you cannot get into the park facility.
Correct. You should bring ID to prove you're from Pompton Lakes. This is only for Pompton Lakes residents. And the reason for that is, like I said, I'm on numerous calls with the mayors of Passaic County, and we understand that if one town was to put on fireworks, all the towns surrounding would come to that town for the fireworks. So that's why, as a group, the mayors decided to cancel all fireworks on July 4th, because if one town did it, everyone would just run to that town. Now we were hoping that we would get past it. We're not. We are going to move forward with our fireworks, and other towns might be doing the same, but they will be limiting it to residents only. So obviously, if you're grandparents are visiting and they're with you, they could probably come in and watch, but it's not going to be, just anybody could show up and watch the fireworks. You do have to have ID to get in. I've had numerous meetings in the last couple of weeks with Jersey Central Power and Light. Like I said, our representative has been very forthcoming in information. Sometimes the numbers that I was posting on my website or on Town Hall, they were the most updated numbers. When Jersey Central puts out their numbers, they put them out once a day. Those numbers don't always jive with the most recent updated numbers. So that's why there could be differences in numbers. The numbers I was getting were the most updated. At one point, we had, 4,000 residents come back at one time. So, it was a big storm, as our OEM director mentioned. We were prepared. The storm was coming. You would think Jersey Central would have been ready for this. And I didn't see a truck up here for the first 2 days, I can tell you that. There was no trucks up in Pompton Lakes the first 2 days. Granted, more than 1 million people were out, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but there's still towns out in other places, Long Island, Connecticut, so that's a long time to not have power. And if you're ever thinking about it, and this is another thing that I thought was interesting on social media, everybody says, I got to go get a generator after one of these storms happens, and then nobody goes out and gets a generator. And then the next storm hits, and they go, darn, I should have got that generator. Now's the time to go out and buy that generator. You might not use it. You might never use it. Okay, but you have it, because in the hot and in the cold, you want to have heat, you want to have air conditioning, you want to have refrigerating, you need to have that generator. The gas part of it is another part of this problem that we're going to have to talk about with the county and with the state, because during the last administration, Christie did provide grants to all these gas stations to put generators on their pumps. Nobody took advantage of it. We did have, like the OEM director mentioned, one gas station in town that did put generators on, and he had lines going all the way down to Wayne and ran out of gas in like 6 hours. So again, when you see a storm's coming, get gas in your gas cans, gas up your cars. Don't try to go run out and get gas during the middle of a storm, because you're going to be in a line that's going to be 2 hours long. So again, it's preparation. It's preparation of what you need to do. And lastly, again, I mentioned our downtown, thanks to...
Mayor, I don't know if you mentioned the fact that we pushed down...
Oh, yes, okay, thank you. Another problem we had with Jersey Central was the ice distribution. They told us that in every county there was a place you could go pick up ice. In Passaic County, there are no places to pick up ice. They just never set up any place to do it. And I brought that to their attention numerous times. They said they have a problem in finding a store that will work with them. I said, well, you guys need to find a store. We do have a new food store coming in, which I mentioned to him. That would be a perfect location for what we call up Passaic County and down Passaic County. It's something they're going to look into. But yes, they were giving out free ice and water in different communities, just not in Passaic County, because there was no place to get it. There was one close by in Boonton and up in Acme. You could have went there and gotten it, but nothing close by. Lastly, we do have a food store. Again, a long fight for me for the last 10 years. We finally got the okay and the approval. It's gone through all the boards, so you will be seeing a new Lidl food store coming into the old A&P shopping center. That should happen in the next 6 months. Included with that will be some storage facilities behind it, a chain storage facility, and a drop pad kind of like Starbucks in the front parking lot. So there will be some changes to that building, and those are all good changes. And I remind everybody, if we have a food store in here in town, because that's the biggest complaint besides taxes I've heard about in a long time, you need to shop at the food store, because the food store is not going to stay here if nobody's shopping at it. So we need to shop at it. And our local downtown has been holding its own. Our bid, some of the council people, Councilwoman Palladori, Councilman Bennon, we're on a board to try to get things going. Unfortunately, and this whole council fought it, our county here in Passaic County is the only county that requires a $5 million insurance policy for any business that's on a county road. A lot of these businesses could not afford the $5 million cost, and so they couldn't do outside dining. We're the only county requiring it. None of the other counties in New Jersey require, or maybe require, $1 million. We've written a letter as a group. I've spoken to numerous politicians over it. They refuse to change their stance on it. That being said, we were able to set them up in the back, and there is a lot of good food establishments out serving food outside now, so please take advantage of that. And that's my report. Council President Bennon.
Thank you, Mayor. The Historic Commission meets on the 4th Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. I had to correct that. We haven't met since COVID started. Public is welcome to attend when we meet again. I'd like to thank the mayor's remarks, echo the mayor's remarks, and thank our DPW, police, fire department, First Aid Squad, CERT, all the first responders for their hard work during the last couple weeks. The residents, thank you for your patience. I know it was difficult to not have power during the few days we didn't have power, but especially during the pandemic, it was an added layer of stress and work that no one really needed. And while it was difficult to deal with a power outage, imagine how much more difficult it would have been to deal with a power outage on top of flooding. So I'd like to thank our Flood Advisory Board and the governing body for funding the river work that has been going on for the last almost 10 years now. Lastly, I'd definitely have to thank our OEM coordinator, sitting in the back row there. You did a lot of work leading up to the storm and during the storm, and you will continue to do good work. I'd like to thank Frank Giaconetta for his service to our community. This year's campaign will definitely not be the same without you. Maria, I welcome you back to the council, I guess. You were on before I joined the council, and I look forward to running and working with you. And that is my report.
Thank you. And I was reminded, we're going to do it at the end, but I'm going to let Maria at the end make some comments if you'd like. You want to do that now, or you want to do it at the end?
Well, I'll do it at the end.
Okay. Councilwoman Valdori.
Thank you. First, I want to say that it's nice to be back up here. It's a sign that we're moving in the right direction and starting to resume our normal activities, so it's good to be back and it's good to see everyone. I want to thank everyone that worked so hard through the power outage to keep the town running smoothly. I want to thank the residents that I did see with their willingness on social media to help each other during these trying times. A power outage on the heels of what has been a difficult pandemic is never easy. It's trying times. I know everyone's patience are thin, but I do still see the willingness to support and help each other, which is one of the things that makes me most proud to be part of this community. So thank you to everyone that's been reaching out and helping each other. I want to thank Frank for his service to the community. I was serving on this council with him for a short time, but I do know him, and it was a pleasure to work with him. He's very devoted to this town. I wish him and his family the best of luck in the next chapter of their lives. And I want to say congratulations on your appointment to Maria. I haven't worked with you on the council before, but I do sit on committees with you, so I know that you are very passionate about this town and very hardworking and devoted, so I am looking forward to continuing to work with you. And that is my report.
Councilwoman Riker. Terry?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I want to echo everyone's thanks to the employees and volunteers. As badly as we were hit, that's how well we seem to have picked the pieces. The part of the outage, and the mayor spent a lot of time talking about the power company and the Cablevision. My bigger gripe was really with the Cablevision. As he indicated, it is a monopoly, but during chit-chat prior to you actually starting the meeting, you and others acknowledged that the degree of service that we have from Cablevision is absolutely unacceptable. We used to have representatives, you used to have a place to call, you used to have a name. We have nothing. Mayor, when you were indicating call, and if you don't have your power, call again, remind them that you're still out. When I called Cablevision to remind them I'm still out, and in terms of, one of those having to be working from home without internet, I got a recorded announcement that said, you already called us, and they hung up the phone. There were no attempts to give us any predictions. There were no attempts to give us any updates. I think as a council, since we are not a community that has the benefit of another service provider, we are not a FiOS community, as the administrator indicated. They aren't adding FiOS communities currently. Then I think we need to consider sending a formal complaint to the Board of Utilities. I really think their behavior was reprehensible.
Can I jump in there, Terry, for a minute? Because I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree with you 100%. And one of the biggest problems I had with Cablevision, after talking to the supervisor, there is no place on their webpage to file a complaint. You can legally not file a complaint on their webpage. And I told them I am going to talk to my attorney, who is sitting in front of me, and I forgot, that I'm going to ask him to look into the FCC if a requirement is to have a complaint area on their own webpage. Because when I asked to file a complaint, they sent me to another department and then tried to give me information over the phone of who I should call. And by the way, I'm just going to throw this in. This is what's getting me so mad. I asked to talk to a supervisor. It took almost a week and a half. I had a representative call me live at 1:30 in the morning to tell me a supervisor would call me next week. He called me at 1:30 in the morning. And he told me, I said, well, how could you be calling me not during business hours? We can call you anytime we want. That was his response to me. So I agree with you 100%.
Well, just as a follow-up to that, they did indicate, like the power company, if you would like to be notified when your cable comes back on, please give us a cell number and we'll text you. Again, the notice was not timely in any way. So someone like myself who had looked for alternate places to work, waiting for the text came 5 hours after it actually went up. So I guess I'm not physically sitting right near the attorney, but my question is, where do we send our official complaint?
I'm not certain whether it's the FCC or the Board of Public Utilities, but I have the mayor's question. I will look into it and advise.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you. A few other quick things. I had the opportunity to make a very, very brief visit to Borough Hall today. In my capacity as finance chair and things that could not be done over the phone or the computer. It was wonderful to see a handful of the employees who I really hadn't seen in months. I was encouraged to see the plexiglass and the signage. There was one thing that really shocked me and that really disturbed me. I had anticipated that when I walked into this public building, that there would be someone at a cable before I could walk into the public building that would take my temperature and would assure that I had a mask on. There was no one like that.
Because we've ordered a piece of equipment that will do that when you walk in automatically. It's just not in yet.
Okay, but that piece of equipment is not going to assure that people are really wearing their masks. And in the time that I was there were several people that were in and around Borough Hall without masks.
Well, if they were in Borough Hall, not near people, then you don't need to have a mask on.
No, they can't enter the building, Mike. I really think we have to be firm on this.
No, they can't. Wait, are you talking about staff? Are you talking about staff or public?
No, I'm talking about public.
No, public is not allowed in the building without a mask. That is correct.
Well, Mike, that's correct. But if there's nobody there to stop them, who stops them when they finally get to the police dispatcher or they finally get into the clerk's office?
The dispatcher was watching everyone come in the building. You have to be buzzed in the back door. You can't just walk in.
I'm talking about the front.
The front door is watched by the dispatch who comes in. We can't have someone sitting there all day.
Of course you can. Most other places, you take your staffing, you look to see who's got what, and you do a rotation. The people sit there for an hour or two.
That's not what's happening in other towns right now. That is not what's happening.
Okay, I do not think that's true of other large buildings, and I think that's something you really need to reconsider. I do not think you're adequately protecting those in the building regularly and those who visit the building.
Karen?
So that's yes.
Over in the senior citizens, they have a piece of equipment there, and I believe that's what they're buying here. You have to go before the camera. It will tell you whether you have a temperature or not. It'll tell you if you don't have the mask on, you got to put it on. It's automatic.
So then I'm going to be devil's advocate to you.
And there are people in the building
to enforce. You've got it on order. You know how important it is. So why is Borough Hall not open by appointment, or you let someone in until you have that temperature reader?
Because we have to open up. All Borough Halls right now are open in Passaic County, all of them. There's none of them are closed.
Okay, but they can be open with a sign that says...
We have signs.
We'll let you in.
No, there's no
But
appointment.
you're not locked.
Terry, there's no appointment in all the buildings. There's no by appointment. They're all open walk-in. I know no one that has a person out front, I can ask tomorrow at my meeting, that has a person out front checking temperatures. I don't think anybody's doing that. I think they have dispatch watching on the camera who comes in. And yes, do people come in without masks? Yes, 100%. And the police have come out, Liz has come out, Kevin has come out, and told them, get out until you put a mask on. And people forget, they do forget. And it happens in grocery stores all the time, it happens in Home Depot, it happens everywhere. But they have to go, they cannot be in here without a mask, that is correct.
Actually...
Okay, so I'm going to throw up to you...
Terry, let me interject here. Actually, that was one of my thoughts when we began this process of reopening up. And it was the recommendation of our health officer not to do that, because you're going to put the person at risk. You have to get close enough with whatever equipment you have to put until you have some type of monitoring equipment that's on a computer, you put the person at risk, walks up to somebody's temple to shoot them for a temperature. Again, it's all about contact time, and it's all about wearing a mask. Bottom line is that the contact time is 10 minutes without a mask on. If you have a mask on, the contact time is far longer. Marietta Orpella made it very clear to me that to do that would not be wise for the community or the employee, and that's why we didn't do it. And we're going to be spending $230,000 to make this building touchless, which will include the type of screenings that will mean if you even come in through the back door, it'll tell when you touch that door if you have a temperature. So we're going to get that technology, but our health officer made it very clear to me that was not a recommendation she would make, because it would put employees, whether part-time or full-time, at risk trying to do that. Most people, we're behind plexiglass. You cannot get to us unless you walk to us in the hallway. And at that point in time, we see somebody, I threw 2 people out already, and it's something you have to be vigilant of. But that's the answer. Most of our staff is already behind plexiglass. We're already pretty much not in contact with people, and it was her recommendation not to go down that path, because you end up opening a can of worms you might not want to have to open.
And that would also mean that Wayne is not doing that also, because she's also the health officer.
Well, in fact, Wayne, they don't wear masks in the
Mayor,
office.
what you had said, you were very pleased that we were the first or one of the first to have an in-person meeting tonight, okay? And you were very, very proud of the fact that we were first. So I'm going to say this to you. Until you get that temperature machine, I think you need to be the leader and say, until we can do temperature checks, I think your building needs to be locked with the phone number on the door, encourage people to make appointments, to see that they're going to be, and that they're...
Terry, that would be a request by the council to do that, and I don't think this council supports that idea.
Well, I'm just throwing it out to you because I have to tell you, it was my first time in Borough Hall in months. Everything else I had done had been by phone and email, computer, scanning, and I was shocked. So I said my piece, and if there's no support for that, that's fine, but I feel there's a dereliction of duty on the part of the leadership.
Okay.
On a lighter note, I would like to congratulate Frank on his move to Florida. I've worked closely with Frank for a number of years. As a matter of fact, my first contact with Frank was still a police officer, and he was on the negotiating committee. And so we had a chance to work together even prior to him coming back on council. Frank was always very jovial, and he had a very easygoing nature. And quite frankly, he was very helpful to me during certain times in terms of understanding some of the workings of the police department. So I wish Frank and his entire family well. I'd like to welcome Maria Kent. I did not serve with Maria when she was first on the council way back when, but Maria is very much responsible for my running for council initially, and many of you may chuckle because Maria grabbed me at my mailbox because she is one of my neighbors and very very quietly said, we're looking for someone to run for council. It's only 2 nights a month. So those of you sitting up there know that the only 2 nights a month are quite misleading, but I thank her anyway, and I wish her much luck, and I'm looking forward to working with her. I do have a question, and I think this is probably directed to the mayor. Would you mind, and it did come up in your report, would you mind giving a very brief update on what the status of the opening of our schools is, our local schools?
Sure, I'll do that. I can do it now. I actually did talk to the superintendent today. Right now, the way it sits right now is you have a choice of going in person up till 11:30. They'll be going to school. Wednesdays, all the schools will be closed for a deep cleaning. The high school will be doing it in shifts, 9th and 10th one week, 11th and 12th the other week. All shifts, though, end at 11:30. For kids younger than 6th grade, the teachers will be rotating and the kids will still be staying in their classrooms. Right now, it's about 20% have opted out of in-person school, but the email just went out this week asking the parents to make a decision, so that number could get higher. And with the governor's announcement today, doesn't really change how we're going to face this yet, but that could change in the future. Right now, though, if you opt out, you're opting out for 10 weeks. You can't come back in until the 10-week period is up. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Begg.
Yes. I'd like to thank Al especially and the mayor. They put a lot of time into the effort in this storm. The DPW did a fantastic job. Fire department answered many alarms. Carbon monoxide was a particularly problem. Police department did a good job. They were on the job for a long time, and Dan's crew at the DPW really did a nice job. Cablevision, I have a lot of problems with Cablevision.
Seems like we all do.
And one of the things is, and I don't know if people realize it, but they've closed the office in Oakland. You had to go, I had to do some switching of equipment. You either go to Fair Lawn or you go to Patterson. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed with that company. Talking about Jersey Central Power and Light, Al and I went there after Sandy to a meeting, and then we were promised a lot of things that really have not been done. The power station in Riverdale really needs to be updated, seriously. This storm is not just the only time that power goes out because of that station. So those things need to be addressed. On the other hand, I'd like to congratulate Frank on his service to us in the community and his family. I know it was a big move for him. I worked with him for a long time in the police department, and he was always doing a fantastic job. Maria, we've been together on and off for many years, and congratulations on coming aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman DeWine.
Thank you, Mayor. First, to start off by thanking Frank Giaconetti for his service. Wish him best in Florida. You know, Frank, like everybody says, he's a jovial guy, easygoing guy, but he was a fierce advocate of the residents, and it didn't matter. I mean, I remember the number of times he'll be up on the council and you get his voice raised and the energy will come out. But that was Frank. I mean, when he cared about things and he let people know where he stood. So, you know, that honesty, that dedication will be missed. On the other hand, I would like to congratulate Maria for joining the council. It's kind of weird to have the glass because I'm like, is the glass here or not? But you know, Maria was one of the first people I met when I got involved on the Environmental Protection Committee back in 2007 and the Open Space Committee. And you know, Maria has been a volunteer on the Flood Advisory Board, on the Lake Restoration Committee. So many things, you know, that I mean, her resume will end up speaking for herself on it, but one of the things I did want to point out in light of, Council President Vennon's mention of, the results of the storm and the work that the Flood Advisory Board has done, even a precursor to all of that was the South End Committee, and it's a major reason why we don't have condominiums on that south end of town that became Willowfield, actually. That's now in a floodway. So, the kind of work that Maria has done in our town on behalf of our residents, regardless of what her affiliation was during her career, which is now over, by the way, with the New Jersey DEP, is an asset to our residents and not a liability. And people need to realize that. Guilty by association is a ridiculous concept. She wasn't a regulator for DuPont. She was an employee for DEP. You're a public servant. You do your job. You do the kind of things. And Maria has always dedicated her time as a volunteer to this community, and I look forward to working with her on the council, too. COVID-19, again, the fact that we're 3 weeks without a case, I think speaks volumes for, what everybody's doing. We're vigilant about this thing. And I spent, the year I spent in Iraq, and the number one danger was people getting complacent. Man, people are tired of wearing these masks. People are tired of not being able to see their friends. I know my kids are especially, not being able to go to restaurants, not being able to go to gyms, those kind of things. But the number one thing is not to get complacent. We will get past this. Our borough has worked hard to get where we are. Our residents are working hard to stay where we are. So I just want to remind everyone, just stay vigilant. Don't get complacent, because we will see our way out of this, and we'll be better off for it. The storm, our community, our first responders, our police, our fire department, our DPW, our first aid squad, our OEM, the mayor with the communications on Facebook and everything did a bang-up job, and I've railed about JCP&L in the past. I hate to say it, but we're talking about this Riverdale substation, and we've talked about it for years. We had the representative here a year ago talking about all these improvements that they were going to make, and where has that gotten? It could have been an 85-degree day, and the south end of town could lose power for 3 days. So again, JCP&L it just continues to be one literal and figurative disaster with them after another. Optimum, I don't think I need to, my experience was the same, and again, it's just another company that has any kind of disincentive to compete, to do better service, and unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with right now, too. The Trails Committee, I want to, thank a number of people on the Trails Committee. After, we've been on top of these trails throughout the summertime. I know we struggled with it last year, maintaining it, but Council President Vennon, Lauren Vennon, Cheryl Cruz, actually this weekend I got my chainsaw stuck in a tree trying to clear a trail, and Dave Cope and Ron Donkos, helped clear that over on the Red Trail. So, the trails are getting utilized, which is great, and the Trails Committee, partially because of that, but partially because we have so many dedicated volunteers to those kind of things, have been on top of it. And after this storm was over and we had gotten power to most of our residents, the Trails Committee was back on the trails trying to, provide that amenity to our residents. To the point of emergency preparedness, and I think this gets to a larger point, when we have these seminars that Al holds, and there's a number of volunteers, it's not a flooding seminar, it's an emergency preparedness seminar. It's brought up in that seminar. We just had the calendars go out for 2021. There's an insert in this calendar. It's not a flooding emergency calendar, it's emergency preparedness. It's what you do in the event of emergency, and there's a number of ways that we can have an emergency. So people need to read that, and it gets to a larger point of everybody looks to the government to solve all their problems these days. Take some personal responsibility. You have medicine, you have food, you have young kids, you have an older adult in your house that you have to maintain medical equipment for them. Plan ahead. Do those kind of things. The Arts Council is a great idea. What's stopping anyone from doing it themselves? oh, the government should do that, okay? Start doing things ourselves. Be responsible for your own actions. Boonton Arts Council did not get started because somebody went to the town of Boonton and said, hey, that's a good idea, you should do this. There was a number of people organized around the idea and started doing things. Start doing things ourselves. Government is not going to solve all our problems. We've seen it now with JCP. We see that with Optimum. Start planning and doing these things yourselves. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. I should have mentioned, I've been getting a lot of calls about a lot of things, but one of the things I do get a lot of calls about with everybody being home is the trail system and how nice it is to have it down there and that people are using it a lot. And I've walked on it numerous times and there's been a lot of people on it. So it is a big plus right now for our community. With people home all the time, they are walking on it. All right, Ms. Kent, your name has come up a lot. I'm going to let you talk now.
Well, I first want to thank you very much, Mayor and the council members. And it is a privilege and an honor to be appointed to this position again. I sat here in 2006, and I'm in the same spot. And I'm very, very proud to be here. I love this town. I've worked very hard since 1992 on the Environmental Commission and the committee way back. And because of that, we do have the trails, and we have the South End Committee, and we've done a lot of good things. And I've been very fortunate to work with so many good residents and so many wonderful mayors and council people throughout the almost 30 years that I've been here. I want to reassure the residents that spoke tonight about my past employment that I will, and I think you'll find that I am always been very professional, and I've always taken Pompton first. And I won't mix anything. Even now, there won't be anything. I've always been on, the ethics issues are very important to me, and I've always followed them. So I want to reassure you that won't be a problem for you. But in any event, I want to thank the Trails Committee. I was there. I said, well, what's another tree? Because we took down about 3 in my own yard that fell. And I want to thank Al Evangelista and all the OEM folks, the DPW folks, and the police department. We have a safe community. We have a clean community, and we have a community that understands, how to handle an emergency. And Al, it's always a pleasure to hear you on the other end of that phone call. So I'm going to.
I won't go that far, but all right.
He's always. I wouldn't know what to do if it wasn't you. I'm not sure. But I would just want to tell you that I appreciate this appointment, and I will work very hard for the residents, for all the residents in Pompton Lakes, and I just want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, professional reports.
While we were speaking, I just wanted to, I took a look, and I want to confirm that Cablevision and all cable companies do fall under the jurisdiction of New Jersey's Board of Public Utilities, and specifically the BPU's Office of Cable Television. So.
Okay, good. That's good to know.
Yep. And Mayor, I will look into the question.
Yeah, just see if they have to have a complaint.
Yeah, absolutely.
What they're
there ought to
basically
be an avenue for complaint.
Yeah, what they're basically telling you is complain to the operator that you're complaining about. Yeah. So how far is that going to go? Okay, Administrator, report.
I have actually a number of things tonight, Mayor. As you saw in my report, we received the Passaic County Tax Board's 2020 certified tax rate, and we sent out in time for this tax billing an estimated tax bill. That's because the state of New Jersey has not adopted its state budget, which means what that bill might be at the end of the cycle might be a lot different than what this tax rate is. If we lose state funding and state aid, that's going to change what this tax bill represents. As you know, the governor received the opportunity to potentially bond $10 billion would it be, because the federal government is not helping state and local governments try to deal with loss of revenue. So we might see our tax rate to somewhat stay the same, but I do have some trepidation. On that note, we received our tax collection for this August quarter, and it was strong as it was in the prior quarter. We only have about 300 delinquents, and some of that will clear out over time, which is an average delinquency. We received almost $13 million. Just last night, Citibank dumped over 220 grand. Delinquent because we're paying 18% interest, but they dump that kind of money into the system. Again, my concern is when is that going to stop? I mean, there's 40 million people out of work. I can't believe people in Pompton Lakes are all employed. So I do have a concern that eventually, sooner or later, this is going to end up hitting us somewhere. And
So let's look at the positive. Right now, our residents did make our payments for taxes right now.
But I am concerned.
Yeah, I get you. I get it.
Concerned. Because somewhere along the line, we're going to pay the piper. I'm not sure when we're going to pay it, but it's not going to be pretty. We have a new tax zoning map that's coming out. Mazer worked on new zoning map, did all the research to go back and make sure they had all the proper changes from planning board for adjustment changes and so forth and so on. I believe that ordinance is going to be coming out relatively shortly. I know that I believe Debbie is working with Bob Uzdike relative to an ordinance to approve the new zoning map. You guys signed and approved the 2019 audit today. Our comments, recommendations were very minor. A couple were repeats. Some of it is just a matter of timing relative to employees being part-time, full-time, when they go into DCRP and things of that nature. In my report, we have the draft land use analysis from the Creating Place to Age. So it's a program we've been working on with the committee that was put in place last fall, almost around this time last year, and we're going to be having future meetings to kind of tie that all up. Pompton Lakes received $647,000 from the CARES Act, and Passaic County provided us with that funding. At this point in time, we have either spent or encumbered almost $570,000 worth of that money.
On just COVID.
We did.
On COVID
Well, it's CARES.
Yeah, it's just some people don't understand. That's just COVID money.
The majority of the stuff went to big ticket items. We spent over $120,000 on PPE. This building is going to become completely touch-free. That's a $230,000 item. The library is going to become touchless. That's a $70,000 item. We bought some decon trailers, and the council has it listed there, but we bought some UTVs for smaller trailers that allow you to do work in parks and smaller, tough venues, even on the trails. So we're buying those through the CARES Act. There is still money the county of Passaic has that they have not distributed to the communities. I have talked to Anthony DeNova, the administrator. I told him that there are a couple things I still think we get to get as part of our plan. But more importantly, if we're going to do this, he's got to distribute money soon, because we have to have all of our things purchased, all of our paperwork done, and all of our canceled checks in hand by December 31st. I can tell you, I just signed a bill that's going to go in the hopper for September that was issued back in late March for stuff that Dan bought. So this is a long process, and I hate to see us lose out, because, so I've all told our staff, as you know, that we have to have everything we want done by September, so we have all our paperwork done in time for December. But it's a long, tedious process. On that note, too, it was 2020 census. Now, Al put out a reverse 911. Pompton Lakes, as of early August, had a return rate of 74%.
That's good.
The state had a return rate of 64%. Our rate's a little lower than we did for the 2010 census. The state is a little lower than they did in 2020. So we're trying to push, make people to get online, to take the census, make the phone calls. It takes literally 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I did it myself. It doesn't take long at all. What else do I have? The last thing I have is the council approved the contract for the paving of Colfax Ave, our phase 1 and 2. So that will now it's awarded. We'll get the contracts together with the contractor. I'm thinking probably it'll be started sometime in early to mid-September, maybe quicker. I'm not quite sure what they already have. Remember, we're not getting them wherever their cycle is. So hopefully we'll get them into mid to late September, and that will be done. That was our major project. Tilcon will be doing the Stiles Avenue in Jefferson repaving once Cifelli goes in and does all the catch basin work. They were going to start that last week, and then the storm threw everything off for them too. So that'll be beginning relatively shortly too.
Okay, a couple things. Just remind Tilcon that we're looking at the boat launch also to get that done. When they
What's that?
The boat launch when they do.
Yeah, no.
And then just for the public sense, the funding that we received from Passaic County came from the federal government. They broke it up to communities in Passaic County. We got our piece of $650,000. That is only to COVID-related expenses. So we've spent probably $600,000 or maybe more of that expense already on improvements for COVID only. So that's a lot of money into a small town like ours just to take care of COVID. We're preparing for the worst. We're ordering tremendous amounts of PPE for us, for the schools, for the future moving forward. Face shields, gowns, masks, gloves, all the devices that you hear about on television all the time, wands to clean with, touchless systems, new trucks to spray. So we've put a lot of time and energy. We meet once a week. I have a meeting once a week, or once now every 2 weeks, with our groups that explains how we're going to use this funding. The way it came down, it was a numbers game for the federal government. If your county didn't have more than, was it 800,000 residents?
Yeah, it was depending on the census, but yeah, something like that, yeah.
So if your county didn't have more than 800,000 residents, you did not get the money. So an example, Morris County, where Riverdale is, they're just under 800,000 residents. They got no funding from the federal government for all this cost. So it does make a difference, which leads me into my next concern, which is the census. The census is huge for us in New Jersey. We pay the highest taxes in the country. The reason we get representation is from the census. Please, everyone take the time. You can do it online. It takes a minute. You can do it by phone. They do not check anything. I know that one of the bigger concerns is they're going to check me for my background and everything I do through the census. Your numbers have to be counted. That's how our representation gets shown in Washington. We lose representation in Washington, we lose money. We lose money, our taxes go up in the state of New Jersey. Very important that we take care of the census. Any questions for the administrator? Terry, you good?
Mayor?
Yep.
Yeah. Kevin, could you just go into a little bit of detail on the creating places to age?
The committee was formed after we passed the resolution last August or September. We began with looking at the land use aspects of utilization of the community. So at this point in time, Tanya Roback from the organization has done a very extensive study of our land use. She took a walk through our downtown and put together a land use plan that we might look forward to going forward relative to making this community senior friendly, so to speak. So that's kind of where we're at. We were supposed to have a follow-up meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, then the storm hit, so we're still in the process of getting a draft finalized and then move on to the next phase. There's probably 3 or 4 phases to this project.
Yeah, I think, right, just...
So is this the TAB grant that I had introduced you to, or is this different?
No, this is the same thing. This is what the grant is going towards.
Don't we have a meeting coming up?
This is an offshoot of the TAB grant. Okay.
Next
I also,
Monday.
can I just, the mayor was very passionate about how important the census is, and some people may not realize that after the 2010 census, New Jersey lost the congressperson, and the congressperson ended up being lost from northern New Jersey, and our district got completely redistricted and redesigned. We really want to make sure that everybody who's physically here is counted, because it will impact not only our roads, it will impact our health care, it will impact our ability to get future federal funding. It is really important.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Council President Venin, Councilman Baig, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, I'm Gita Curtis. I'm still at 111 Ramapo Avenue. I was going to talk about something different, but I felt like a couple of the comments were directed my way from Councilperson Mandeline. But as far as an arts council, I do many things myself and don't rely on the government. I'm just too busy to do it myself. So I put the idea forth. hoping that somebody would pick it up and go with it. So there's that. And then there's that I am entitled to my opinion.
Sure.
And as far as the new councilwoman, there's a history there. Doesn't happen in a vacuum. It isn't because of that one fact that she had this past. It's because I've sat in EPA, CAG meetings, everything, and I've heard her speak. So it's not like this random thing.
Okay.
So I am entitled to that opinion, and I don't need it mansplained for me.
Okay, I just need questions.
Okay.
No comments, I need questions.
Now, what do you want from me?
Questions. You have questions?
I had questions?
Yeah.
I don't have questions, I have a statement.
Oh, okay. Make a
Thank you
statement.
for your leadership during the COVID. I think you've done a really good job. And thank you for keeping the politics out of it and keeping it data-driven. I really appreciate that. I think you've done a great job with that.
Thank you.
Did the world stop? I said something nice?
No, very good. I hear bad, I hear good. I'm used to it.
So there's that. I did want to talk about something else. Just touch on it. I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe, if anything, they should be funded more. But we might want to change the way we do things. I believe in community policing. I think they should be out of their car and walking on the street. I don't think they should all have guns. I don't believe in low-profile cars. The whole point is to have a deterrent when you see a police car. And those low-profile cars are a little intimidating. And they're kind of like, give you a bad feeling. At least they do to me. They're kind of like, not good. And I want a muscle car like that to drive around in. But so I do think it would be good if they were more on the street, like walking, because we are a walkable town. I understand they couldn't all do that, but, and it's a good way to like get that community relation. And also, last time you asked me if I had questions about transparency, to go talk to them. I tried twice.
Transparency about?
Just the police, you know, how we deal with transparency.
Yeah, unfortunately, you'd have to deal with them. I can't.
I know, you asked me to go talk to them.
Right.
So I went there twice. Twice they would not see me. So, there's that.
So I could speak to them. Did they talk to you in any way, shape, or form, or?
They came out, other people, and I asked if I could speak to the chief and what I wanted to talk to him about. And the one guy was a little obnoxious. And I got like a little loud, not crazy. Never crazy.
Getting a little loud could be a problem, but okay.
Never crazy. And the other guy comes out, and he goes to the guy, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, he's got the gun. I don't. You're asking him if he's okay. It just seemed to me like an example of everything. Like, he should be asking me, is everything okay? What's going on? Why are you... You know what I mean?
Well, they're watching out for each other. They don't know where you're coming from.
But they have guns.
Right.
I understand. I don't.
Gun has no part. What I would suggest you do is write an email to them and suggest, I'd like to have a sit-down time, what works for you.
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
At this point. I can't do that at this point. That's just too much to ask.
Okay.
But so I did want to say that, and that's that.
Okay.
And have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. You have a good night, too.
Thank you.
And actually, you reminded me, I forgot to mention one thing. We did have a Walk for Hope here in town about a month ago. It was a peaceful rally, and it went well, and the police were involved in it, and there were some residents there, and we ended up at the gazebo and had a nice communication, I think. So that did happen about a month ago. Anyone else from the public would like to address? Please step up.
Mayor Evangelista, Emergency Management. I hate to get back up here, but you brought up some points that I want to just elaborate on a couple things. First of all, the mutual aid situation with the electric utilities. We had guys in here from West Virginia, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Unfortunately, it took them 2.5 days to get here. I was talking to the guys from Arkansas, which means they got dispatched on the day of the storm. That's not exactly preparedness on the part of JCP&L. But they arrived, and once they had arrived, things started happening. We have to address through the legislature this rigmarole with polls. If there's 5 telephone poles in a row, and 4 of them are run by J.C. Pinell and 1 is owned by Verizon, they will not touch the Verizon pole. We had that issue right here on Hamburg Turnpike. What the legislators got to adopt is that if there's 4 or 5 poles in a row, and they're all owned by J.C. Pinell except one, let them replace the pole that is owned by Verizon and bill Verizon, and vice versa. If it's Verizon poles, they should be doing the work. You can't tie up a project because of one utility waiting for that pole to get done when they can come in and button that whole area up. We brought that up in Irene. We brought it up in Sandy. Nothing ever came of it. The substation. They added all those box stores. They added all those apartments in Riverdale and Riverdale Road. Never once upgraded that substation. They had the fire there that I was at a couple years ago. They brought in a temporary trailer, which is still sitting there next to the substation, supplying the additional boost that they need for power. That needs a total overhaul. The Wanacue, that was a short. I mean, there's nothing, as you said, that's never happened before, and hopefully it never happens again. With the ice, I don't want to hear they need a contract with stores. They brought in truckloads of ice for Sandy and Irene to the Passaic County Community College, and they dished it out, 2 bags per resident on the back of a truck. You're not going to go to a grocery store in Boonton and traverse 287 to get 2 bags of ice. By the time you get home, I don't know what's left. But shame on them for that, because they can contract with an ice distributor and bring that truck right about. Our ice depot is enumerated in our plan as the Pompton Reformed Church parking lot. Easy in, easy out. It's right on 2 county roads. They didn't use it last time. They used Wanacue. That's fine too. But the bottom line is that's got to be done. I don't want to hear that the situation had to be worse in order to do that, because I think it was pretty bad. I brought up about what I call a quick cut truck. A small bucket truck with 2 guys that can go around and cut the wires at the poles, so our DPW can get in there and start cleaning up. They could not clean up for days because they weren't sure these wires were dead, and they had to wait for Jersey Central to come and say the wires are dead. They should have a quick attack truck that goes out, a quick team, whatever you want to call it, that goes to these poles and cuts the wires that are down and entangled in trees. Get rid of them, cut them at the pole. Get the debris out of the road and then come back and do your restoration. The cable and the power, what a lot of people don't realize is Cablevision needs power. So if the power isn't at the pole, you're not going to have cable. You're not going to have internet. You're not going to have anything. Now, when Cablevision owned it, before Altice bought it, they used to strap a small generator at the base of each telephone pole that has those big square boxes on them. That's their transformers. This company didn't do that right away. I did see a couple at the very end down the south end of town. This box right here on that pole I'm talking about in Hamburg was destroyed by the tree. And then the reverse phone calls. I want to thank, first let me lead into that with this. Congratulations to Frank on his retirement. Talking about community policing, Frank was the embodiment of community policing. Okay, people respected Frank because of the way he respected them. And I see that with all our police officers now, especially our new guys. There's a mutual respect there. I think it works very well for this town. But Barbara always used to tease him because she used to tell Frank that Al called me tonight on the phone when she would get the reverse phone call. And then he would laugh. But it underscores my point. A lady came up to me after a seminar 2 years ago. And she said, my parents still live in Pompton Lakes. I live down the shore. Can I put my number in your system so that I can have a heads up? When there's a problem in Pompton Lakes, I'll get in my car and start coming up here. I said, absolutely. This is what we encourage you to do. We need you to take care of your own. So she put her number in our system, and when that call goes out, she's on her way up here for her parents. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that people should be aware of. And again, Councilman DeLine, you nailed it. Right on point. People have to help themselves. Neighborhoods. We used to have crime watch neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
People should get together and share generators or work with each other to keep especially medications.
Part of the plan is you really should be on your own for planned for 3 days.
Exactly, exactly. And the last thing I'll leave you with was this, because I saw it on Facebook, and it was on my site for OEM. And please, if people are listening to this out there, please like, if you're on Facebook, the Pompton Lakes OEM site, because I do post some very important information on there. Apparently, Robbinsville, New Jersey, the town went out and bought 50 generators. Now, I don't know this to be the truth.
I saw the story.
This is what I saw. And what they do is they have a pool where the people can come and use it, and borrow it, and return it or pass it on to another neighbor. So my comment back on Facebook was, who tracks it? What happens when the guy pulls the rope too hard and breaks the rope? When I loan it to Kevin, who's keeping accountability for that? Where does this thing end up? Because you give it to him, he gives it to her, and who knows whether it comes back or not. It's not something our municipality can do. We just can't do that. We don't have the resources, we don't have the manpower. So, you know, a lot of it isn't pie in the sky and it looks nice, but it's not practical. And people have to learn to help themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Council President Lennon, Councilwoman Palladori. Privilege of the floor. I actually have something. I just should mention to the newer residents here in town, we had a bike run this weekend for one of the officers that we had that passed away, unfortunately, how long ago was it now? 5 years? 3? 3 years ago. He was leaving his job here as an officer, was crossing the Lakeside Bridge. A deer jumped across the road, took him off the bike. He hit his head on the ground and passed away, unfortunately. A young officer named Pete Camper. Great guy, funny, loved to be an officer. So we did have a bike run for him. I did attend. There was over 200 bikes that ran through 5 towns and then came back to the Elks Lodge. And I thank the Elks Lodge and the police officers for putting together. We do not forget Pete, and he was a great guy. Any other privilege of the floor? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So, Councilman Beline, was that you? Yep. Councilwoman Palladori. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
I think you cut her off.